Good morning, everyone. This is Faith from Faith and Books. How are you doing? Hi, this is going to be a quick weekly update, reading update, and then mostly it's my Victober TBR. I've talked about my Victober choices before, so this is just sort of the official one, and maybe a little bit more complete. But just as an update, well, first of all, I have to just share something really fun. My daughter's a cappella group, the Washingtons, performed last night at the Nats game, Nats versus Marlins at the stadium here in DC, and they sang the national anthem, and I posted it on my Instagram, and as soon as they put up the video, because my video wasn't very good, my husband made a better video than I did. But as soon as they put their official video up on their little YouTube channel, I will link below, because I'm just such a proud mother. I've been listening to it all morning since I got up. My daughter has a lovely voice. I have an okay voice, but it's not very strong. I always wanted to be able to sing, and I have this daughter who can sing, so I really love her voice. So it was fun. It was a really fun thing. So that was exciting. We went to this game, and the funny thing was, we left early, and just as we were leaving, we're walking towards the parking garage, we heard this roar coming from the stadium, and apparently there was this really rare in the park home run done by the Nats, and the Nats they were losing when we left. They wound up winning 5-4. So it was, and I think everyone has me to thank for that, because I left, because I am not lucky. Whenever I go to a game, I haven't been to one in ages and ages, whoever I'm rooting for always loses. So everybody can thank me for the Nats winning last night. Anyway, my husband was so chagrined that he missed an in the park home run, but oh well. These things can't be helped. I feel like my chin keeps getting cut off here. I'm having the hardest time situating this thing for some reason today. Anyway, a quick reading update. I am really bogging down in The Path Between the Seas, about the building of the Panama Canal. Part of it, I'm just too tired, and I read it at night from my backlit Kindle. So I turn off the light, and that's when I read it. And I'm just so tired, I only read for about 3 minutes and I fall asleep. But also, it's just a little dry, and it's about topics that I'm just not that interested in. So initially I was really interested because it's a topic that I knew nothing about, and I was learning all sorts of new things. And then it started to lose me, because there was this huge scandal in France over it, and it was all had to do with investments and investing in stocks and selling stocks, and I just didn't understand the high finance corruption going on. And there were all these French names. I wasn't good at figuring out who was who. And then we finally got to when the Americans start to get involved, and I was like, okay, good, this will be good. But it's all about the lobbying right now, and this bill, and this senator testified here, and this, it's just not holding my interest very much. Now, my husband says he's already finished it, that it gets better, because it starts talking about how, the part I'm really interested in is how they fought yellow fever. I really want to learn about that. And I want to learn about Teddy Roosevelt's involvement and all that stuff. But just right now, because I'm tired, because I'm just not that engrossed in this particular aspect of the building of the Panama Canal, I'm struggling. So, but hopefully I'll keep plugging along, and I'll get through this part, and it'll get better and more interesting, and I would like to finish it. I'm not going to DNF. I'm not even considering that. But I am kind of struggling right now with that. The other book I'm reading, which is just delightful, and even though I'm tired and I'm not moving very fast in it, I'm still really enjoying it. Now, this is a reread. The first book in this trilogy, the Corfu Trilogy by Gerald Durrell. Basically, let me turn off my engine. I don't need it. Is My Family and Other Animals. And I read that years ago and thought it was hysterical. He's so funny. It's about his childhood when his family moved to Corfu. And it was a BBC production, and I think they did a really good job, and I really want to watch it after I finish reading it. I caught bits and pieces of it when it aired, but I didn't watch the whole thing. So I just think he's a wonderful writer, really good writer, and just such a good sense of humor. Is so funny. And one of the funniest things I think about this is the way he portrays his brother Lawrence Durrell. So Lawrence Durrell was kind of, I associated him with people like D.H. Lawrence, that sort of level, or that group rather of writers, of that type of writer, Lawrence Durrell. And I tried to read Lawrence Durrell many years ago, and I thought he was the most pompous, pretentious writer ever. I mean, laughable. And he makes fun of his brother that way. And when I first read it, I totally got it. I was like, oh my gosh, this guy's Lawrence Durrell's brother. He's making fun of him for being pompous and pretentious. And that's exactly what my opinion of him was. So, yeah, so I'm really looking forward to, working through these 3 books. But yeah, so I am enjoying this very much. It's kind of heavy. So when I'm reading, sometimes when I fall asleep, it falls in my head, which is not a good thing. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this very, very much. Okay, so, and then the other thing I'm currently doing is I am trying to work through The City of God, because I am trying to finish it by the end of the year. Really interesting part. He's talking about sex, and it's really interesting. Just what the ancient philosophers thought about it, and how Augustine refutes them, analyzes, their inconsistencies, the assumptions that he makes, his exegesis from Genesis and from Paul and the Psalms and all that. Very, very interesting. I'm really, really enjoying this part of The City of God. So that's the reading that I'm doing now. But this is really about Victober, and I wish I wasn't sitting in a car. I wish I could have like a cup of tea or something atmospheric, but I don't. I do have, however, I brought myself warm apple cider to drink, because it's a beautiful fall morning, early fall morning. It's supposed to get warmer later in the week, which I'm unhappy about, but right now it feels very fall. Anyway, so this is just my official TBR for Victober. So Victober is this reading event that happens every October. We read Victorian literature. And I always complain that October is not a good month for me, and I'd rather do this in January. I'd rather have another Victorian reading event in January, because that's when I want to read my Victorian literature, because October is so beautiful. You just want to be outside. And I'm doing my gardening, and I'm just enjoying doing Halloween things, and we have birthdays, and it's just October is so filled with other things that it's hard to read. And so so many people have these really intense, long lists of books that they're going to read, and it's just not physically possible for me. I'm a slow reader anyway. It's just not physically possible for me. So from I don't know, from January, I'd been planning to read The Prime Minister by Anthony Trollope for Victober, because it just happened to coincide. And again, I'm in Christina's Knitting Books, etc., her year-long read-along of The Pallisers. This is the novel slated for September, October, and I am reading it in October. And I just want to say, I got this. This is a used copy from Thrift Books. I have been buying my Trollope books from Thrift Books. And look, it's in absolutely pristine condition. I'm getting these Oxford World Classics. And I really like them a lot. I'm trying to collect Trollope now. I mean, not fancy books, but I decided to get rid of I did a big purge and got rid of a bunch of books that had been sitting on my shelves for 30 years, and I didn't need them anymore. I didn't want them anymore. And now I'm trying to collect authors I really, really love and want to explore. And so Trollope is one of them, and I've been buying these used books, and it's absolutely pristine. And Shondi Standfast, if you're watching this, he said that when he ordered from Thrift Books, and he's over in England, they came hard, like a cover off and just in terrible condition. But look, this is what I've been getting. This is the quality that I've been getting. It's like brand new. So I don't know. Maybe they just got a deal on these World Oxford I don't know why I can't say this. Oxford World's Classics for Trollope. And so, yeah, I've been enjoying buying these secondhand from thrift books. So I'm planning to try to read this physically. So that's going to take me all month probably to read that. So, okay, so I was starting to say what Victober is. So there are 5 hosts this year. And I think it was started by Katie at Books and Things. And I cannot remember what her prompt was. But each of the hosts has a particular prompt. I can't remember what hers was. I can't remember. And I don't think I'm going to follow. I don't usually try to follow the prompts, or I only get to like 1 or 2. This time, I'm probably going to do 3 out of the 5. The first one, and I didn't even need a prompt for this because I already tried to read Victorian poetry in Victober, is I'm going to continue trying to read more Browning. So my first Victober, I read The Dream of Gerontius by John Henry Cardinal Newman. And I actually, it was when I just first started this channel, and I read the whole thing out over a series of many videos. So that was my first one. Then the second year, it was Robert Louis Stevenson. I read all his poems of childhood. And then last year, I tried Browning, because I'm really interested in Browning, and I want to read more. I only got to the first 2 in this collection. I think I bought this from Dover. Yeah, it was Dover Thrift. So yeah, I mean, I'm not counting Song, but I read My Last Duchess, which I've read before, and I read Incident of the French Camp, which is quite dramatic. And so I'm going to go on. I've read a lot of his poems before, but I'm just going to be a little bit more intense and intentional. And I'm going to try to read as many poems as I can. I'm aiming for maybe 2 a week if I can do it. It's, a busy time, but that's my prompt for Roz of Scallydandling about the books. I know when I upload this, I'm going to try to link. Okay. So anyway, so that's the poetry. Then Petra at Petra U, I'm doing a twist on hers because she said read a book and then watch an adaptation. But I am reading Mary Barton with the Kate Howe's Victorian book club. And instead of watching, there's no adaptation of this that I know of that I can access. I am writing a screenplay. I'm trying to write a screenplay. I started this at the beginning of September, and I got stuck, and I haven't worked on it for like 10 days because it's just a technical thing. I have to go into this long conversation where we're introduced more in depth to this character named Alice. And I'm just like, how do I type it? Like, I think I have to go to the book and find it and then just type it over into my script. Or my daughter was saying, can't you go to Project Gutenberg and like copy paste? But then I would have to go in, and that seems too complicated too. So that just held me up. And so I'm hoping today that I will be able to get to this and do some typing and really work on the script today. I'm really hoping I can do that. I just haven't really had an opportunity. And I just felt stymied by that. So I'm not going to finish this. It takes a long time to write a screenplay, turns out. But I'm going to be working on it actively from now until the end of October. So that's my sort of twist on Mary Barton. Now, I haven't read Mary Barton 3 times before. This is the group read for the Victorian Book Club. I'm listening to it on audio, though. Read by Juliet Stevenson, and then I'm using this as I try to write. So yeah, so that's my, my own personal Victober project, but also it sort of ties in with Petra Yu's prompt. Then, and this also ties in with Kate Howe's prompt. Kate said her prompt is read a book that represents disability. And I don't know if she remembered. Maybe she did say it in her, but there's a girl that goes blind in this story, and how she learns to cope. and how she learns to support herself and everything is really interesting aspect. She's kind of a minor character, but sort of a significant minor character. And yeah, so this book has that representation of disability in it. So this is everything. This is covering three things, right? The Victorian choice, the Victorian Book Club choice, disability, and sort of Petra Yu's a twist or a variation on hers, reading a book and watching an adaptation. I'm writing an adaptation. Okay, and then what was the other one? What was the other prompt? Oh, the other prompt was read a short story. And a lot of people are saying like Sherlock Holmes or Elizabeth Gaskell's Gothic Tales. I've already read Elizabeth Gaskell's Gothic Tales, some of them a couple of times. So I really like them, and they're charming, and I could go back and just do that. And I read some Sherlock Holmes. I'm not the hugest fan of Sherlock Holmes. My favorite was The Hound and the Baskervilles. That's the one I like the most, but that's not a short story. So if I can get to that, I will. But I'm making that optional. It seems like a short story. I should be able to squeeze it in, but last Victober I only read 2 Browning poems, so I don't know. And I think I want to emphasize poetry over the short story this year. So I don't know. I don't know if I'll get to that's Marissa's prompt. So, and I forget the name of her channel. Sorry, Marissa. But anyway, so those are my Victober plans. Now, in addition to that, I had wanted to read George Eliot's, I think it's Scenes from a Clerical Life, or Scenes from Clerical Lives. I don't even remember the title. I downloaded it on my Kindle a long time ago, planning already to read it in Victober. However, I just joined Shandy Standfast's Patreon, and he's got something called the Faded Pages Book Club, and he's also got a film club that goes along with that. And I really like Shandy Standfast's content. I have from the get-go. I think he's just so full of knowledge and insight, and a lot of the things that he wants to talk about, I really find interesting and compelling. And he does do a lot of science fiction. I'm not personally into science fiction, but, I'm willing to try it now and again, or hear about it anyway, hear people's opinions about it. And he does a lot of film stuff, and he does a lot of sort of backlisted books and kind of classics. And he just has really, really interesting content. So I think he's well worth the money. And I will link below to his Patreon that he's starting up now. So he's just building it now. Because he really could use the help. He's kind of in dire straits, and to bring in a little income, would be good for him. And his content is so good, he's giving away treasures for free on his YouTube channel. So I'm quite willing to support him in that, so he can continue doing that. So I highly recommend Shandy Standfast's channel, BookTube channel, and come over and join me in his Patreon group. So the reason why I'm saying that is in October, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, we are going to read Down and Out in Paris and London, I believe, by George Orwell. I have been wanting to read more Orwell for ages, and I'm so excited to do this. It happens to fall in October. So what I might do, since I'm struggling with Path Between the Seas, and that's on my Kindle, I am going to try to push my way through that and get to the end of that. And then I'm going to read Orwell. And if I can finish Orwell before the end of October, then I will start George Eliot. If I don't get to George Eliot this time, that's fine. I plan to reread Middlemarch in January. That's my Eliot month. And that's when I can focus on her. Because the other book that in November, I've already planned for nonfiction November to read Thoreau's Walden, and I don't want the Scenes from a Clerical Life to supplant that. So I may or may not get to George Eliot. It depends on how fast I can get through the other stuff that I want to read, The Path Between the Seas, and then Down and Out in Paris and London by Orwell. So yeah, so is that everything about Victober? I'm trying to remember. We have a lot of things going on in October. My oldest daughter's wedding anniversary. It's winding up of the season of creation at my church, which goes from September 1st to October 4th, which is the feast of St. Francis of Assisi. And then my husband's birthday, and he's turning 60, so we're gonna have a party. And my soon-to-be official legal grandson's 7th birthday is on October 7th. And then, of course, you have Halloween coming up. So, yeah, so October is a very rich month. So, I think that's it. And I've talked for almost 21 minutes, which is too long. So I will talk to you later, and happy reading. Bye-bye.